Hello and welcome to another episode of Northside Now. This is the podcast where we take you on a tour through all of the ministries and the latest happenings around Northside Church to keep you better connected with your church family. My name is Patrick, and with me as always is my fabulous co-host, Glenn Miller.
Jumbo.
What's up? I heard elephants as you were coming in the door. Like, how is Africa? You're back in the country.
Out of Africa.
Yeah. I had to turn up the volume on our rim shot.
Oh, man, Africa trip was great.
Yeah?
It was really good. We did some really great ministry with the folks there at Gamasara, and that is blowing and going like some craziness.
Yeah.
So church was full, standing room only,
That's
literally
awesome.
out on the front porch watching. But yeah, it was great. And then, the team was wonderful. We got to do a lot of different cool projects with them and hang out with the kids. And then, we go on safari at the end. And
I saw your TikTok that you posted with the elephants.
Yeah. So I'm going to slowly release videos. And really, this year I didn't take my big camera. So last time I went, took my big camera, I took a ridiculous amount of pictures. So this year I was like, I'm going to tamper myself down. Yeah. I'm really going to try to hit just video clips. Yeah. And I took a few pictures, of course, but just all my phone. Everything off my phone.
Nice.
So I had several more video clips to post yet.
Awesome.
So I was kind of hanging out. Yeah, my favorite one so far, and it may be my favorite one of my entire life, unless something like this happens again, is when the lions are fighting.
Oh, yeah?
and rock our car. We have a big land. We're all in these Land Rovers, and these two male lions get into it, and they hit our car. And it rocks it back and forth like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
They're loud, too, when they fight.
I've never been that close to lions before. I don't know.
Well, I had one from about me to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally about the hood of the car.
That's
it's about from me to you right now.
Because I don't imagine that the car would really do much to stop a lion if it really wanted to get inside.
Now, when the safari guide, the driver, is rolling up his window, I'm sitting up front with him. He's rolling up his window and leaning back, trying to get in my seat. You're like, they're a little close.
Yeah.
They're a little close.
Not like the safari park here.
It's not. Yeah, it's like, we're not in Alamo anymore, Toto.
You don't have a bucket of food.
No, you don't feed these animals because they might just feed you to each other. Funny thing about that lion story is they just finished eating something. We never could find it. I really wanted to. I was kind of like, Robin Bradley and I were like, let's go find the kill because that would be really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, their faces were red and stuff. So, but dude, they were sacked out. I mean, you could have probably jumped on one of these things and they would have never known it. But that male lion that did all that roar, he went over and messed with a female. Was like nuzzling her and like, I want to lay here.
Yeah.
She jumped up and slapped him 7 times before he realized she had even moved.
Good.
And laid right back down in her spot. And he just looked dejected and laid down somewhere else and was out for the count. But it's crazy how close you can get to them when they're knocked out like that.
Yeah.
Lions were cool. We saw some cheetahs though.
Ah.
And they came as close as the lions did.
That's
and
cool. Last
time I went, I saw everything I saw this time except for a cheetah. And that was the coolest thing. They were hunting around a water hole with a bunch of hippos. There's no way to describe hippo smell, by the way. That's a horrible smell. But the cheetahs were hunting around the water hole. And we're just, one of these they're going to let loose and take off running. And we're going to get to see this whole thing. But never did. They snuck up on some birds. You can't be a dumb animal in the Serengeti and live very long. But great trip, wonderful stuff. The church at Gamasara is just doing wonderful. And the school is great. Moses is my father's house. Awesome. Emmanuel is wonderful, doing great, and got to see Anna again, and then Angel House, the orphanage, and it's just so much. It's growing. They have electricity now.
Oh, nice!
I gave you the set list or the tech booth list.
I really appreciate it. I couldn't really read anything on it, but
it was cool. I saw that.
Cool that they have a tech sheet now.
Patrick needs to see this. I took a snapshot of it.
Yeah.
And, they had a tech booth. That's pretty funny.
That's awesome.
Now they can play like off of a computer, some music and stuff and do that. So yeah, electricity is very helpful, but yeah, I just don't want them to lose their innocence of just, man, everything being wrapped around the church, and I've said it on here before is, I blame electricity for the downfall of man pretty much.
I mean, there's an argument there for sure.
Well, we all went in our homes and turned our lights on and turned each other off until we start making TikToks and stuff. And then we laugh and make gossip about each other because of our postings.
Well, hey, now the AI is about to rise and we're going to have a common enemy in electricity. So
yeah, I might just need to go be a safari guide in Africa. That might be my next gig to get away from the AI. The AI is on the rise. And, the funny thing is we're here. School's about to start in a couple of weeks, dude. Can you believe this?
It's when I was younger and adults would talk about how time just seemed to fly. Like I didn't really get it.
Oh, yeah.
But as I'm getting older, it's like I could swear this year just started. And now we're already like, it's almost August. I guess now that you're listening to this, it is August. Yeah.
Today.
Yeah, today is August.
So that is going to put us, let's say 30, 60, 90. Yeah, we're days away from a holiday season.
Oh, I know. It's almost Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, we're basically talking, holiday season really starts right after Labor Day, basically.
Yeah.
But till you start doing all the holidays from fall break on, so let's say Halloween on the end of October.
Yeah.
It's full holiday go.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, the choir is about to have to start practicing for the cantata.
Uh-huh. I've already been talking about stage design stuff and things like that for what we're going to do for Christmas. And yeah. We're already planning out. So.
Yeah, well, I've been planning stuff for 2024.
Yeah.
Already.
I like your big calendar you put up on your office wall. Just...
Yeah, so Miranda came on staff and put a little 4-month calendar
she
up.
bought like this dry erase calendar that went on her office wall that had 4 months. So I liked it. So I bought a 6-month calendar. So Glenn liked it and he bought a 12 month. So it takes up the whole wall in his office. And
he had long, dude.
He had to outdo us. So.
But I love it already because I can turn around and see everything up there.
It just helps to visualize it.
It does.
It really does. So.
Yeah, I use Google Calendars and the Microsoft Teams. I use all the tools we have all the time. I mean, I live in them. I can't even think of what I've got coming up without it in my face. But to turn around and see that all at a glance is
very helpful.
It's very helpful.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a big monster calendar. But you know what that tells me? That big monster calendar says, I better do some Christmas shopping soon.
Yeah, for real.
But we're about to start back to school. And one of my favorite things about going back to school growing up as a kid was you got new shoes, new tennis shoes.
Yeah.
So when I got back from Africa, because I took my tennis shoes with me and pretty well destroyed them in all the dust and dirt. It was dry there and they need rain. So pray for rain for Africa, or at least for Tanzania in that area.
God bless the rains down in Africa.
Yes. Someone should write a song about that. Yeah. But anyways, so I went and got new shoes, and I was thinking, all the back to school signs are up because I think the tax-free weekend was this past weekend or is this coming weekend, something like that. So all the tennis shoe signs, get your kids new shoes. So some cool bright white shoes. I haven't had any white shoes in a while, so I'm pretty pumped to have some new shoes here at the start of school.
My problem is I get a brand new pair of white shoes and they stay white for about a day.
Yeah.
And then they're kind of brown and dirty.
Yeah, and that's
I'm rough on shoes.
Yeah, me too. I'm gonna just have to baby these though. Because they're Adidas. I haven't had Adidas since I was a kid.
Oh, yeah?
Maybe I'm going through a midlife or late life crisis.
You feel like you can run faster in them?
Yeah, I did try to run around the little track. There was a little boy there getting his shoes for school. And his mama said, I bet that man will run around like you're running around in your shoes. And I looked at her and was like, maybe not.
Yeah. That was always my thing when I was a kid. And I got a new pair. Man, I bet I can run so fast in these shoes.
Yeah. Well, because it's back to school, we last year we had Judy Brown from Trinity in and kind of talked about getting your kid ready to go back to school and kind of some of the new school adventures and stuff. Well, this year we moved over to JCS and had our very own Coach Will Rikard. We interviewed him right before I left to go to Africa. So we're just going to be upfront about that because, we're doing this recording right here way after we recorded him. But we think it's important to release, kind of help your kid get ready to go back to school. And the fun thing about Will is he's a football coach.
Yeah.
And so we talk about, getting your student athletes ready for school and stuff.
Yeah.
So
I do have to say, I'm like, when we talk about sports, I have very little to offer into the conversation. My sports knowledge basically comes from the movies that I've watched. So, when we talk about football, it's like I've watched Remember the Titans, and this is the extent of my football knowledge is the movies I've seen.
So which football movie is your favorite?
That's tough. Probably Remember the Titans.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean
hard
that's
to beat
that's
that
why that
one.
one popped into my head first. I think because I've watched that one more than. That's a good movie.
Facing the Giants, that Christian one they did. That's a good one.
That
too.
was better than you think it would be.
yeah. That was. They have that one iconic scene where the kid's bear crawling with a dude on his back.
Yeah.
I mean that's been used in so many youth rooms and
I know.
coaches' studios over the years. It's just, what a great emotional motivator there.
Yeah.
You can do more.
Rudy is also a really good one.
Good,
Yeah.
But I think baseball probably wins the best sports movies.
Oh yeah. Well, you got Field of Dreams. Does that count as a baseball movie?
Hell yeah. It is the baseball movie. The
A League of Their Own.
own.
I just watched that one not too long ago.
I like that movie a lot.
Yeah.
So we talk a little football with Will, and he shares some cool stuff with us. But he's also an English teacher, and really a lot of people don't realize this is coaches are not hired to coach.
Yeah.
They're hired as a teacher first, and then if you have a coaching ability, but that's literally how it's done. However, we're going to go hire us a coach and whatever they teach, then too bad for you if you teach that because they're going to teach it too. So he's an English teacher.
Yeah.
And so we talk a little bit with him about like AI, and can you tell if a kid had a computer write their message for you and stuff? He has a great perspective on that.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that quite a bit. So
I think it's a very insightful conversation.
it is. So let's jump right over to Coach Will Rikard from Jackson Christian. And we're here with Coach Will Rikard. Welcome to the podcast room.
Very glad to be here.
So, one of the first things he said when he walked in was like, "Oh, this is a cool room."
It's probably the coolest room at church.
It is.
People just don't know about it.
It's not hot. It's the opposite of hot. That's pretty much all I can say.
We were talking. I'm a big fan of being isolated, so like I can.
Yeah.
I like that. Like kind of in your own little cubby over here.
Yeah, when
bunker.
I used to live down here, and it was
The
greatness. This is releasing in August, but we are recording this in July, and the reason being is because you're a little bit busy today, whatever day this releases.
Yeah.
Because football coaches the 1st of August and end of July in the South. I guess everywhere, but I played football in the South, so we got to say in the South.
Yeah. It's different down here. It means more, right? Yeah.
Because it's hotter.
Because it's hotter.
I mean, I grew up in a time where you didn't have breaks. What's the 105? Is that when y'all have to?
Oh
take them
yeah.
off the
At
field?
some point when it gets too hot, our trainer will kick us off, and he's got the little instrument that he measures everything with. I think it's like 105, and now it's like dew point and humidity. It takes all kinds of factors into it. But
I would have loved to have seen that happen when I was in high school.
Oh, yeah.
In the 80s. You got to get off the field. It's too hot. In the state of Texas.
You complain about it being too hot. They just make you run more.
Exactly. Hey, I got an idea, guys. Come back this afternoon. We'll do more for 2 days. When it's hotter.
Science has revealed that our players are more effective when they're conscious and
It does help.
So it does help. It does. Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Well, we just rubbed dirt on stuff back then.
You got to put them through the crucible, That's
All right, and then so as an old football player, you got to know, does this thing still exist? All right, boys, you can go over and get some water. And so you run over, and there was a PVC pipe with holes drilled into it, like a big square.
Glenn, how old are you exactly? I mean,
I graduated in the 80s.
You had to go get the bucket up from the well.
Yeah,
and then you
but
got a
the
bucket of water.
PVC pipe that had like, moss coming out of the little hole with it and stuff. That
oh
was
man,
great
you
stuff.
got to remember we're a private school. We got like nice stuff like water bottles and
Man.
stuff like that.
they've got an actual garden hose. You can
drinking
drink out of.
fountain.
Yeah, this thing would hook to a garden hose. That's the way they did it back in the day. When I played in junior high, you had to like fight for the T-bar face mask.
Yeah.
If you just had like the single little bars like Roger Staubach used to wear, you were just you were
You're-
cool to
you're-
have the
You're
T-bar.
definitely dating yourself here.
Oh yeah, I'm old. So, but yeah, that's the reason I don't coach football now. It's
How
way
many
beyond me.
concussions have you had?
5, actually.
That he remembers.
5 that I remember. So yeah, I actually did the math one day, and so So how is coaching football now in the world of NIL and all that stuff? How long have you been coaching now, Will?
10 years.
10 years. So you've been doing it for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
So have you seen it change that much in the last 10 years? And I mean, let's just kick COVID out of the way, but
COVID was very different. As far as coaching, not really.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest, kids haven't really changed. I think how we treat kids have changed. I think this generation, they want to know why more. But a lot of times if you explain to them why we're doing something, and you hold them accountable, the work ethic's still there. Kids are still tough. You might have to draw it out a little more, but you hear people all the time saying kids are soft, but they're really not. If you motivate them appropriately and you give them goals and you hold them accountable, like kids are still tough. It's about how you treat them and how you go about it. So from that aspect, no, stuff's always shifting. Like you said, every year it seems like something comes out. And eventually all the stuff that's going on in college, the transfer portal and the NIL, eventually that's going to trickle down to some degree. But right now we're not really dealing with a lot of it, to be honest.
Yeah. That's good. One of the things, in baseball this year, they're wearing that looks like an oven mitt when they run the bases.
Oh, yeah, the sliding glove.
Sliding glove thing on. Looks like an oven mitt. told Celeste, if I come to a ball game and Clay's out there with an oven mitt on, I'm going to have some problems. I mean, that's what we do. As old people are like, you got to be tough. You're not as tough as you used to be. So it's good to hear that kids are.
They are.
And that's what we experience here at the church. Kids are kids, right?
Yep.
They're not that much difference. It's a lot of the stuff going on around them that changes and stuff.
Well, it's interesting. I get this a little bit from the soccer side, but I know baseball with some rule changes around how the game's played, et cetera. Probably trickle down in soccer. It's this way. So you have a lot of things that are tested at international level, and then it trickles down into the more of the grassroots playing. So they're considering now offside. It's a big thing in soccer. So how you rule that is maybe changing.
Oh, really?
And so I would imagine that, I don't know how much in football that happens. I know at the professional level, there's all kinds of things that they do a little bit differently, but imagine that might trickle down at some point. Baseball is the same thing, where you've got the timers, the clocks and stuff that's a little different.
Yeah. But, I could imagine adding more.
Oh, yeah.
More complexity to it.
Yeah, really.
And that's the thing. It's a great lesson you can take from football. It's like the game's always going to evolve. And as a coach and even as a player, you can sit there and, complain about it and say, like, this is ruining the game. Or you can adapt.
Exactly.
And just make do with, this is the new reality. And so for the rule changes, like a lot of times that's what you got to do. You just got to adapt and,
Well, and we did learn, hydrated students are much better athletes.
Sure,
there's a lot of stuff we did learn over time. And, from 35 plus years that I haven't been in high school and college and different stuff, we did learn a lot. And so you want to implement all of those good things and equipment's better. And, we did need it because, I didn't play that far into college, but all of my concussions came prior to that. Right. And I did have 5. A couple were from bicycle wrecks though, but still.
What about heat stroke?
That was not good. Yeah. But you don't want your kids going through that stuff. Stuff has long-term effects to it.
No, you really don't. And if you look at the majority of coaches now, there's some that give us a bad name, but most coaches that I know are so concerned with player safety. I think if you look at our season last year, I think we maybe had one diagnosed concussion, but that's due to rule changes. That's due to better equipment. And I'm of the opinion, like that's good for the game. That's going to help grow the game. Kids aren't getting concussed and having heat stroke. That's a good thing for us. At the end of the day, we want our players to be safe.
Yeah.
And it's an inherently dangerous game. I get that. But whatever we can do to protect them, like we want to make sure we're doing those for sure.
So how's the game of football changed in your time of playing and your time of coaching versus, is it more like, because I know even in church league, everybody wants to run down the court and shoot up the 3, because of Curry and stuff. It's kind of like what Kevin was saying, things kind of cycle down, but some years you may not just have the horses to run the plays that you want to run, if you have a certain coaching philosophy. So could anyone come out and run like a power eye or single wing or wishbone or anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. And I'll try not to get, I love talking about scheme. And so I'm going to try not to get too into the weeds right here. But we actually played a team last year in the quarterfinals, Middle Tennessee Christian. They run a single wing offense. Yeah. And if you look at it, it looks like something straight from the 1940s. Yeah. You probably ran it when you were playing. Yeah. Not saying you played in the 1940s.
Yeah, with my leather helmet.
Yeah, he did.
But But a lot of teams still do that because everybody else, like you said, is so wide open and trying to spread the ball around. So a lot of times teams like that have an advantage because nobody's equipped to deal with that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But, it's funny. Football, it's cyclical. Like things go out of style and come back into style. So if you look 10 years ago with Oregon, everybody wants to run the 4 receivers, spread it out, go fast up and down the field. But now if you watch an NFL game or a college game, teams are going back to using tight ends and multiple tight ends. And they're still running up tempo. They're still trying to run fast, but it's a lot more power football now. And you see how it's kind of evolved back to kind of what they were doing maybe in the 90s.
Yeah.
Teams are going under center more, and they're mixing it up. So who knows what that's going to look like 10 years from now. At Jackson Christian, one of our base run plays is buck sweep. Like you probably ran buck sweep in Texas in 1980.
Yeah.
But that's one of our base run plays. Football doesn't really change that much. Like the base of what you're trying to do is still pretty simple. You're trying to run the ball and tackle the ball carrier.
Yeah.
And things go in and out of style, but the core of it doesn't really change that much.
Yeah.
An element of that is who you have to play.
Oh, absolutely.
The players. So if you don't have strength at whatever position, you're probably not going to draw up plays that really utilize that. I remember, playing both sides of the ball. Of course, I've got a nephew that lives in Oklahoma, and so everybody's very specialized there just because it's such a huge place for football. But a lot of times you got players that are playing both sides of the ball and special teams. They're just pretty much out there the whole time, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, especially like Jackson Christian Small School.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're blessed. We have 50, 55 on our roster. But what you said earlier is spot on. You have to plan for the guys you have on your team.
Yeah.
Like at Jackson Christian, we don't have huge linemen. Like if you look at our offensive line, our biggest lineman may be 230, 240. So we're not going to line up in the power I and, try to run the ball down teams' throats. It's just not going to be effective. But we do have good receivers. We have a 4-star guy who's being recruited by Tennessee and Auburn. So we're like, hey, let's get the ball to him instead on the edge and let him do stuff. So, you got to be mindful of who you have on your team. And at the end of the day, if you're putting your players in bad situations, you're failing them, right? You want to put them in situations where they can be successful, they can be confident. And that's kind of our job as a coach to do that.
Yeah, because you represent the school and everybody else, and I think that's what a lot of people need to remember about coaches is, especially for schools and things, is I coach for the school, not necessarily for your family. They're the ones paying me, number one. Number two, it's the school's name, so that's, you have to make those decisions based what's best for the team. And, you do that by individuals, kind of like doing everything else you do with organizations or stuff like that. So
I want to go back to something you said, because you said a lot of times the guys want to know why. Now, how much influence have things like Madden football and all that the kids grow up playing? How does that influence the game today at a high school level now?
That's a good question. I'm not sure, because what kids do when they get on those games is typically they're trying to run the plays that are going to beat the system. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I don't know how much knowledge guys are getting from those games. Every once in a while we'll have a guy come in the office, but hey, coach, can I drop a play for you? I'm like, where'd you get that from? Oh, it works on Madden. So get out of here, man.
Have you ever tried any of those plays?
Yes. Yeah. You'd be surprised how realistic some of these video games are. So some of them work. But like for the why, it's more like if I'm asking a guy, he's got to do a hard job on a certain play, right? And I keep asking him to do that over and over again. He's like, Coach, why do I have to do this?
I got you.
It's showing him like, hey, here's how this helps our system in this particular moment. Yeah. And once you sit him down and you explain that to him, that's when you're like, oh, okay, I get that. And it's not that he doesn't want to do it. He just wants to know, like, why am I having to do this hard job? Right? And that's where it can be trying sometimes, because like you said, like the old school mentality is you're going to do what I tell you to do and you're going to like it. right?
Yeah.
But if you have the patience to sit down and say, hey, here's why I want you to do this. Here's how it opens up for this guy over here. That's when it kind of clicks and they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Football is with 11 people going against another 11 people. Soccer, this to a point, I feel like baseball's a little bit different. But with football, each person has to execute their task every single time in order to make the results good, because you have, one-on-one basically trying to execute their task, and they're trying to prevent you from that. Soccer is a little bit more that way, but I think baseball, you're kind of waiting, are the ball going to get hit to me or not, so I can really kind of stand over here, pick a flower or whatever. But football, when the ball is snapped, you have to do your thing right to make the play. It's just such a strategic game. I don't think people realize.
It really is. And that's one of the beautiful things. At the end of the day, it's a game, right? And I'm blessed to be able to, part of my living is to coach a game.
Yeah.
But you do learn lessons like that are so valuable, because think about how that applies to, your life, right? Being a smaller part of a whole, that's a valuable skill to take in. And honestly, that's something that people don't get outside of organized sports a lot, right?
Yeah.
Because our society is so individual based. Like, you do you get yours. But one thing football and other sports do is it teaches you how I have to sacrifice my needs sometimes for the betterment of the whole.
Yeah.
And that's an important lesson, man. It really is. And it's not always perfect, right? Like,
exactly.
I wish that all 11 guys could execute their job on any given play, but when they mess up, showing them, walking them through, okay, now how do we handle failure? How do we handle adversity?
Yeah.
Those are things you get in this silly, dumb game we play. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, you stop and think about it, because you're 30-something years old, and Roy over here is getting all the accolades because, at work, because he's hitting it or doing whatever it is, he's doing just great, but your job doesn't have you kind of in that position. I mean, I don't know. I always wanted my daughters to marry linemen for that reason right there. They're just steady for the most part. The offensive linemen especially. They're just kind of steady and they do their job, and they do it kind of in this non-assuming, quiet way. Now, they have gotten a little bit of accolades over the years, a little bit more people starting to realize that, but that's just kind of how you do in life, and when things do get strenuous or tough, you tell kids is like, there's going to come a time when that's going to be, everything seems to be breaking out. The car's not working. The bills are a little bit behind, and the baby's sick and things are crying. How are you going to respond then? That it's more than just a few more inches or getting to that goalpost down there. It's about that character building that happens for life from then on. And I mean, I oversimplified it and joked a little bit, but that's really what I learned from playing team sports. Football was one of my biggest ones, but
absolutely,
that's what I learned from it.
And it's learning how to not let circumstances dictate how you're going to perform.
Yeah.
Like you said, there's going to be days where life's going to kick you in the teeth, and you're going to want to throw your hands up. And I tell my guys all the time, if this is the hardest thing you ever do, you're going to live a blessed life.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
But it's preparing them for how to deal with that. Right. Like you said, when the bills are late, when the kid's crying, when things are going wrong, like, how are you going to respond in that moment? So that's another beautiful thing we can take from football. Yeah.
And the reality of it is, you're not hired as a football coach. You're hired as a teacher.
Yes, absolutely.
And getting to coach is something you need to do on top of that. So you teach English.
Yes.
It's really funny because I thought he was a math teacher for all these years. I thought you were a math teacher forever.
I'm the opposite of that,
That's
brother.
really funny. It wasn't too long ago. I was like, you teach English? Because I just learned you teach English.
Yeah, there's not a lot of us football coach / English teachers.
There's not.
There's really not.
Most of you teach history.
Yeah, or PE.
That's the history class you want to take.
Yeah.
Going to show videos and not take hard tests, So what's life in the English world? When you get in the classroom, how's things changed in that part of the world?
Well,
when it comes to teaching
the
this
big
stage?
struggle with English teachers now is that students don't really read that much anymore.
Wow.
Y'all probably know this because you have older children. They're reading a lot on their phones. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're reading a lot of articles. But as far as like long form text, as far as reading a book, like a narrative from page 1 to page 200, they're not getting a lot of that anymore. So that's really the big struggle right now in the English world is, okay, how do we combat this, right? Kids aren't reading because scientifically their attention spans are shorter. They're not worse. They're different. They're shorter. So how can we keep kids engaged in actually reading books? Because science proves that, like, when you don't read as much, you lose things, right? Like, being able to critically think through an entire narrative is important. So that's the struggle now, is like, how do we meet kids and get them to read? Because it's kind of like what we talked about in football. In the past, you'd be like, you're going to read this book and you're going to take a test on it, and if you don't do it, you're going to make a bad grade. Is there a more effective way to do that?
Yeah.
Is there a way we can show kids, hey, here's why you need to read? The example I use is math homework, right? Like, every night you go home and you do your math homework, and nobody argues about that. Like, that's something you have to do. Somewhere we lost that in English class, you need to go home and you need to read. So that's kind of what we're battling right now. And some kids do read. You still have kids who have a fondness for reading and who are okay with it. But for the majority, it's kind of a lost thing in our school systems. Yeah.
What about the writing side? Can you tell if little Patrick had Chat GPT
Oh, boy.
write his
that's the
his
other
paper
one.
for you. Or
That's what I was about to bring up next. Honestly, it's hard. It really is. You have to have a familiarity with the student's writing style at the beginning. Because, if I have a student who's writing on a certain writing level, then all of a sudden they give me a 5-point essay that's talking about quantum mechanics, like, hey, did you write
with
that?
footnotes.
Yeah,
with footnotes and a bibliography.
Right.
That's going to be fishy. But, where it gets tricky is if you have a high-level student who uses it to write a paper. And sometimes it's hard to prove because, these AIs that are supposed to recognize them, they're not very accurate at this point, at least.
Yeah.
So, it's a big struggle. I don't know if we have to go back to handwriting all our essays or using typewriters in the classroom. I don't know. But, that's kind of the monster that's lurking over in the corner right now.
Well, handwriting doesn't mess a bunch of people up, wouldn't it?
Oh, I know. Yeah. So, at some point, we're going to have to deal with that as educators because that's not going away. You know what I'm saying? Like it's going to get worse and worse. And AI can be a useful tool. Like there's a teacher at our school who, encourages them to use it for editing. So there's ways to incorporate it into the writing. But obviously we don't want kids generating their whole essay from ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So hopefully somebody smarter than me and more educated than me is going to deal with that problem. And then it'll trickle down to me and I'll know how to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I would be using it because I'm all about you want to make the grade, right?
Absolutely.
So
if I were to sit here and tell you that 17-year-old Will Rikard wasn't going to use ChatGPT, I'd be lying through my teeth. I'd be all over that thing.
Yeah, because I would use Patrick. He's like, "What'd you get on this?" So we want to get the grade more than we want to get the education.
And that's what's hard. You have a kid who doesn't use it. What if he gets a B?
Yeah.
And the kid who used it gets an A. Like, of course, that's going to raise its own issues, right? So dealing with all that it's going to be difficult. I mean, in the end, you got to trust them, right? You got to address it. You got to say, hey, we know this is a thing, but cheating's been around since like Plato's day when they're writing on clay tablets and stuff, right?
They just pay the smarter kid to write your tablet
exactly,
too. Yeah.
Exactly. So we have a tendency to overblow the problem, right? Like, ChatGPT is going to be the end of the educational system, and honestly, it's probably not because, like I said, people have been cheating forever. We just have to address it and deal with it and learn how to move on.
The trick's going to be how you can leverage it to help you learn what you need to learn.
Exactly.
Because it's not going away.
Exactly.
It's just like I think about this similarly to the print versus cursive thing. Right? Because hardly any kids know how to use cursive anymore because they don't necessarily need to.
Yeah, exactly.
When do you need to actually handwrite something? You can type it in your phone. You can, type it on a laptop or computer or whatever. So, while the old schoolers might say, well, they need to know how to write and what. Well, the times are changing where they don't necessarily need to have that skill in the same way. So how is AI going to factor into learning what they need to learn?
Right.
It will happen. Just a matter of when.
That's really the big battle in education right now is because these students have access to more information than anybody's ever had in the history of the world. Like it's all right there on their fingertips. It's so much not as teaching them how to memorize facts because they have that. There's really not a need. Like you said, it's like the print versus cursive thing. Right. Do you really need to know all the capitals of Africa when you can look it up in half a second? Yeah. It's more so like, okay, we're trying to teach them how to think now, like how to think critically. And that's where some educators have difficulty, right? Because for so long, school's been about we're memorizing facts and we're learning how to apply those. Well, now they already have the facts. So how do we teach them how to wade through all that information and how to apply it to particular situations? And that's really where I think education is going for better or for worse. And like you said, we gotta adapt. We gotta learn how to apply this to what they need to know.
Yeah, we've talked about before where now a critical skill is how do you look at some information online and know that it's factual?
Oh gosh.
Or know that you can trust it. Or how do you find a source that's reliable? Because if you see it on Pinterest or you see it on Instagram, is it automatically true or right? Well, I think Tide Pods would tell you no.
We've been over this. If it's on the internet, it's true.
Well,
You can't go on the
you
internet.
Need to get out of here. This is, you're undermining everything I'm trying to teach these young people. Come on.
You're in detention, buddy. But yeah, I think that's a critical skill that kids today need to know. And are we teaching it? I think that is happening to some extent, but those are the kinds of things where I can imagine if I was teaching for 30 years, it would be hard to adjust and change to that, but it's going to be needed.
Is our testing changing? I mean, is testing like standardized tests and stuff? I know those are still benchmarks or whatever, but is the testing changing to ask the question in a way differently than what they used to?
I'm not entirely sure about the answer to that. I'm sure it is. Like, for example, at Harding in my old school, I taught AP English. That's a standardized test. At the end of that course, you take an AP test. That was changing. Okay. And essentially what they're doing is they're trying to take out the subjectivity out of the test.
Okay.
Because I think the problem was kids were upset or confused about why this person got this score and this person got this score. So they really tried to streamline everything so that you could kind of quantify the scores and the answers and all that type of stuff, which is hard in English, right? That sounds like a math guy designed that test, right?
Right.
We're gonna take all the subjectivity out of a writing portion of English. Well, I don't know if you can do that.
Yeah.
But I would imagine that's what's happening for other standardized tests is really people trying to cover their tails. Right.
Yeah.
So they can explain, okay, here's why the student got this, and everything has to be like very objective, very quantifiable. So there's not a whole lot of room of, well, did this person get this because they came from this background? Did this person get this? You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So I know that's happening. As far as other stuff, I don't know tons about standardized tests and what goes into that.
Yeah.
I just know the standards I have to hit, and hopefully I hit them. So
Yeah. That'd be tough. So as a teacher, as a coach, besides, we're going to take one away from you. So you can't say read more and start reading.
Sure.
Do your summer reading. So your kid needs to read more, no doubt. Everybody's kids need to read more. We all need to read more.
And I will say this to that point. You don't have to love reading. And that's what I stress to my students all the time. Like, my job's not to make you love reading.
Yeah.
Like, do you love reading?
Sometimes.
Depends
on what the subject is.
Most people don't love reading, and that's okay. As long as they understand that it's a valuable skill that's going to be practical for your life someday.
Right.
To know how to read and know how to think critically about what you're reading. So I want to couch that into what you said.
What are some other things that parents can do? And I'm going to ask this in two different ways. So the first one, to help get their students ready. We're about to go back to school. Everybody's in that process right now. It's all like, hey, back to school. Yeah. So what's a few things that parents can do to kind of help get their kids ready to go back into the classroom?
I'll give you two things. One from me and one from Dr. Rikard, who said that I have to talk about this on this for kids going back to school. Okay.
All right.
So the first one, I think, is for parents, is understanding that for anybody, right, whether you have like the most outgoing, bright student, going back to school is naturally a stressful situation, right? So the more you can do as a parent to alleviate that stress, the more positivity you show to going back to school, I think that helps everybody in the process.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, tons.
So if you have a kid who's already stressed about going back to school, and when they talk to their parents are being very negative about it too.
Yeah.
Like, that's not going to help anything.
Yeah.
Because your teachers are probably stressed too. Your administrators are probably stressed. So the more we can just look on this as a positive thing, the better it is.
Yeah.
Right. And just helping your child, helping your student build those positive attitudes. Is it going to be perfect? No. But you got to understand that for most kids, going back to school is stressful, man.
Sure.
Like you got all kinds of social, educational, athletic things that they're dealing with. So some of the best things you can do is just like talk to your student. Like, if they're having anxiety, help them work through that anxiety. I think that's very valuable.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's I know that's not exactly a concrete thing you can do.
That's good.
But I think that's helpful. Now, from Dr. Rikard, she says sleep hygiene is so important, especially because what a lot of students do in the summer is what are we doing all night?
Sleep in, stay up late.
Yeah, we're staying up late, and that's fine. That's fine. Like, teenagers' natural sleep cycles are to stay up later and get up late. That's fine. But if you can start kind of getting into those good habits before school starts back, and even as school goes on, that can be very helpful.
I've been trying to do that for 34 years. I don't know.
With a growing body and a growing brain, your body only produces certain growth hormones when you're in certain stages of sleep.
Yeah.
So if you're staying up all night and you got a TV going and you're staying up to 1, scrolling through your phone, like, that's not beneficial to you. So it goes back to explaining why, right? Like, you can just yell at your kid and tell them, hey, put your phone in the kitchen before you go to bed, and that's probably not going to end well. Or you could try to explain to them, like, hey, this is going to help you. It's going to make you feel better during the day. This is going to help your diet. It's going to help your energy. It's going to help your overall well-being. And maybe they still don't agree with you, and maybe they still stay up.
Yeah.
But just developing healthy sleep habits can be so huge.
Yeah.
So huge.
Yeah, you're not going to get all ripped and jacked unless you sleep. Did you hear that? That's when your hormones kick in.
I think that explains a lot, actually.
The other side of this coin, and you kind of alluded to a little bit, because everybody's doing something. They're doing dance or band, or they're doing something. What about student athlete? What are some of the things that would help get a student athlete ready to go back to school, which they're already back in practices, especially for the fall. But I think there's some things that maybe, because one of the things about, my girls, when they were leaving in the morning, they had like 12 different bags hanging off their body trying to go to their car, for all the different practices and stuff like that. So what are some of the things for student athletes?
Even more important for them is the sleep stuff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we preach to our guys all the time, sleep and eat. You have to sleep, you have to eat, because if you're not doing that appropriately, you're already behind everybody else.
Yeah.
It's hard to go through a whole day of school and then go to practice when you ate a Pop-Tart for breakfast, and then you skip lunch. You're setting yourself behind. So even more so for student athletes, you need to make sure you're sleeping, you need to make sure you're eating. I'll just tell y'all what we tell our players. You have to get off to a strong start as a student athlete, right? Every school has, a certain GPA you have to have. If you wait till October, do you get those first quarter grades in and then you start trying to fix stuff? That's a losing battle. You have to get off to a strong start in your classes. Introduce yourself to your teacher the first day. Sit in the front of the classroom. This is all basic stuff that people have heard for years and years, but just do them. It makes a difference, right?
Yeah.
It makes a huge difference, because, if you're a teacher and you got a kid who's, borderline between a B and a C, if that student's been nothing but positive and participating in class, like, you may round that up, right?
Yeah.
But if that student's been can I say butt in here? If he's been a butt all year in class, that's not going to help you out at all.
Yeah.
So be respectful, get off to a good start, be involved in stuff. Athletes sometimes tend to want to isolate themselves. Like, be involved in school, be involved in your classes, be involved with different groups throughout the school. That goes a long way in helping you be successful, but also helping people like appreciate you and your athletic program even more. So be a representative. You used the word representative earlier. Be a representative of your program. Be a good ambassador of all the lessons your coach is trying to teach you.
Yeah. I think that's good stuff for sure. And an official congratulations to you and Dr. Rikard.
Thank you.
As you call her.
Yeah.
Which she's been on the podcast before.
Right.
I don't remember which episode, but
She told
her
me.
and Celeste were on, and they did a great job. But y'all are about to be parents.
We are. We're expecting a little boy, Thomas, in end of September.
Cool.
So it's not right in the middle of anything busy for me or anything. But I guess you can't plan these things, right?
That's true. That's true.
No, we're very excited. Scared to
good.
death, but very excited.
Yeah. Well, we'll set up some appointments with you and Patrick. He's learned a lot in the last year.
Your personal coach.
Hey,
right over
trust me,
there.
I need all the parenting advice I can get.
I don't know if I'm your guy. I can try, but I think after a year, I said this before, I think I have more questions now than I did before. That's like, I don't think it's getting better.
You have the recency bias. You've got the information.
Yeah, there we go.
Still warm, so to speak.
I mean, there's just so many things I just don't know. Like, I'm not around little children at all. I'm around high schoolers, but I'm not around infants at all. Like, things like, how often do you change a diaper? How do you know when you change a diaper? Like, all this stuff, like,
Oh, trust me, just go.
yeah,
You'll know.
and what people tell you, like, oh, you'll figure it out, and I'm sure I will. But it's just things like, I have an analytical mind, and like, I just want to know, like I like having a plan.
Yep.
And I know that's going to go out the window as soon as he gets here.
You just make new plans.
Yeah.
Yeah, get ready to watch a lot of Bluey. That's good stuff.
I'm a year into this, and we've just now started watching Bluey.
What is Bluey?
Bluey is a
I don't
TV
know
show
either.
about a dog. You get it. It's about an Australian
An
Shepherd.
Australian Shepherd, a
Yeah.
blue Australian Shepherd.
Yeah. So it's really good. It's actually very entertaining
good
for
stuff.
adults as well. I don't know. Up to this point, it's like, and maybe this is bad for my child, but I still just have kind of been watching whatever I would have watched before, and she just watches it with me. She's not really paying attention to the TV, so.
Does she like Game of Thrones?
Daddy, I want a dragon too.
We have not been watching that, not within the last year.
She may unpack all this with her therapist in like 20 years.
But I mean, she's already seen like all the Lord of the Rings, Star Wars,
that's good
Marvel
stuff, right?
movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the kind of stuff she's watching with me. So.
What was it, 3 Men and a Baby, when they were reading Sports Illustrated to the baby?
Yeah.
It's not what you say.
It's how you say it. And to be fair, there is truth in that. So
Well, there's a lot of parents have been complaining, especially dads, about Bluey because they get their dad really involved in all these games and creative things. There's like no dad can live up to this stuff. Like you got to be a cartoon dog to live up to this stuff. So, but it's good stuff. It's really fun stuff, especially the grannies. They're my favorite piece of it. So, well, Coach, thanks for coming in.
Hey, thanks for having me. This has been fun.
Hopefully, y'all have a great season over at Jackson Christian.
I appreciate that.
Be good. So we can get a few folks out and we need to have a Northside night at Jackson Christian.
Come on,
it'll be fun.
So that'd be fun.
Come on out.
It'd be fun. We've had students play ball there. I remember back in the day when Jackson Christian, they were hot, tearing it up, and really meant a lot to the community. Yeah. That's one of the things I tell these students when I go to talk to them, especially these teams. You don't realize what you mean to your community. You really don't. Yep. I mean, a lot of times, like you said, they just kind of think of their own little group, but all these teams, they mean a lot to us, in the community and in all of West Tennessee. So when you're doing good stuff, people notice and they're proud of you. So So get out there and do your good stuff, kids. But thanks for coming in.
Before we wrap the interview up, we usually ask, how has this job impacted your faith journey? And how does your faith play a role in what you do?
Sure. So the reason I became a coach, we'll start way back there, is because when I was a teenager, 14 through 18, I had men, I had a very great relationship with my father. But outside of that, I had men who intentionally poured into me. And all those lessons we talked about earlier, they tried to teach me those things. They held me accountable. They showed me how to overcome adversity. And they showed me that being a man is not about all the things that culture tells you being a man is. And that's why I got into coaching. So as a coach, I get to attempt to do that for the students I coach. And I think that is a little microcosm of what kingdom is, right? Yeah. You look at Jesus had disciples, and essentially that's kind of what he was doing, right? And I take that part of my job very, very seriously. We talk about faith, but a lot of times it's talking about stuff that leads to that faith, right? In the past year, talked to guys who are going through family issues. How do you handle that as a Christian? How do you handle that as a young man? Because a lot of guys aren't equipped for that, right? They need somebody they can talk to about that. So being able to connect with guys on that level is a huge part of my job. And for my own faith, it helps me be humble. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's so tempting to make it about you, right? But it's not. And that's what I have to remind myself. It's not about me. The wins are great. We love winning. I call plays. We love putting up lots of points. But at the end of the day, it's not about any of that. It's not about the game. It's about these young men who we spend probably more time than anybody else in their lives. That's a huge responsibility. Yeah. So I don't know if that quite answers the question, but that's how it plays into my faith, because I can't minister to these kids if there's a disconnect in my faith life. Does that make sense? So really it's motivation. It's a reminder for me that I have to be in touch with my own faith walk, right? I have to be humble. I have to be patient. All those fruits of the Spirit, you got to embody those, because if you don't, there's going to be brokenness in there somewhere.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think there's a lot of lessons that we can take from, what you've said and what you do and apply it to us at church, because you're talking about being representatives. That's what we're supposed to be for our church and for, I guess, the church big picture as well. For, we're representatives of Jesus every time we walk out in front of people. And so just taking some of those lessons, learning how to play as a team, sometimes we have to sacrifice to ourselves to achieve a larger goal. And I think there's a lot of really good lessons to be learned there. So
yeah, that's good stuff.
Thanks, Will.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me on, guys. We should do this more often.
Yeah.
What? I'm ready to go play some football.
You'll have to teach me.
I'd play. I think Coach could use us. And, Kevin could be like a wide receiver. He's at that soccer. He's tall and long. Yeah. I can't run anymore. So you and we can get up on the line and move some people around.
I always thought I would be really good at football. Oh, yeah. I always wanted to when I was younger play, but Dad got hurt when he was playing football back in high school. And because of that, he never wanted us to play and get hurt.
You were always strong, have quick feet and good hands.
Yeah.
You could push some people around.
I'm pretty agile for a big fat guy. So.
I remember you did something one time in the church parking lot when you were in youth that I think I've had dreams of this happening. You were standing flat-footed in the bed of my truck. I think it was my truck. It was somebody's truck, but I think it was mine. So you were flat-footed in the bed of my truck, and you just jumped up straight, leapt over the side, and landed on your own feet. You just jumped, just popped straight up. And I was like,
I used to have like a 24-inch vertical.
That's impressive.
When I was in high school.
Because you had to come from the bottom of the bed up over the bed. And you didn't hit the truck and you landed and you did fine. You didn't hurt yourself. It was like you do it all the time.
Yeah. I learned from physical comedians like Jack Black and Chris Farley and some of those bigger guys that are also very physical in their comedy. That's who I always tried to,
Yes, you could have done well on an offensive or defensive line.
Yeah.
No doubt. So plus you just kind of enjoy pushing people around.
I do enjoy pushing people around,
especially little hurt people. So, hey, what a great conversation with Will, because I could only imagine my old English teachers. I don't even know if they're still alive or anything. It was a million years ago, but could you imagine just having to decide, did this kid write this or did a computer write it for him?
It's a good thing that this was not available when I was in school.
Oh, yeah.
Because every single one of my papers would have been written by AI.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because, what did you do when you got to school early? You copy someone's paper or something like that.
You always had those people. You'd go to, like there was that one guy that lived in the dorm that you could go and you could pay him for answers for your test or for writing a paper or, whatever. I mean, it's a trope in so many movies where the bully gets the smart kid to write the paper for him.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, so you say, I'd never do that. That wouldn't happen when I was a kid. Well, if you were a kid now, you'd do it because you did those things before.
Yeah.
So don't be saying you wouldn't do that. That's just not true. But hope you're getting ready for school, and a great recommendation: sleep, good food, water, all that stuff's good to be successful in the classroom and on the field, court, whatever. So
and that's just good advice for life, though. I mean,
it is.
And it's like one of those things, it's like we all know. Sleep, eat well, stay hydrated. All these kinds of things are good for you. And yet, for some reason, it's so hard for a lot of us to do that kind of stuff. It's just basic stuff. It's like go to bed at a decent hour. And I mean, right now, I have a child that I blame for why I can't. But still, I could do better at exercising and eating better and drinking more water and things like that. But
and we talked a lot about the AI. And if you can tell, have them right in class, that's a no-brainer. I didn't even think about that. That's a good one. So, But speaking of classes, there is a class now that keeps popping up on some of my social media stuff. It's like a lot of these other internet things. Each day they'll send you a thing of how to better understand AI and use AI. So they're kind of like trying to educate, get in on the front of it. It's kind of a promotional deal because it's here to stay. That genie's never getting back in the bottle.
No.
And so you might as well learn how to use it. And so they give you these little email tips of the day about how to use all the different AIs, the writing, the art, all those things. Yeah. And so they're, someone's trying to make some money on all this, which is fun. So so you can go to learn how to use AI school.
All right.
Just in your own home, on your phone, whatever.
Yeah.
I think Will's right until we learn how to start testing with these kind of accommodations in place, and not testing like we did, when Laura Ingalls was a teacher.
Yeah.
But Laura Ingalls Wilder. But that's interesting. Yeah. Good stuff.
The most recent terrifying thing I've seen on AI is they basically put people in an MRI machine and they showed them an image and then they sort of mapped their brain scan, like what was lighting up in their brain when they looked at it. Mm-hmm. And so they trained a computer based off of those brain patterns. And so then they showed another computer the brain patterns that had never seen the image before. And the computer had to guess what image based off of the brain waves. And it gets really, really close. So it's like a person looked at a picture of a giraffe. Well, this other computer showed a picture of a giraffe. It wasn't exactly the same. It looked like, one of those AI art-generated giraffes. Yeah. But it's to the point now where not only that, they would show a video to the person, and the person would kind of narrate in their mind what was happening in the video, and this other computer could translate that to text.
Oh, wow.
So your dreams are no longer safe because now they're talking about putting people in this to scan their brains while they're sleeping, and the computer will basically create a video of their dreams.
That would be very, very bad.
That would be very, very bad. Now there have been some times where I've had a dream where I'm like, man, I wish I could show somebody this dream because they'd never believe it.
And then you've had those dreams where nobody, I don't even want to see that again.
So, yeah.
And that's how God created us to work through life, right?
Yeah.
That's really scary.
Yeah.
You know, I learned not long ago, a dog has the brain ability of a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
So they can learn about that many commands. So, you know, the average dog. So what if we can start hearing and the dogs can communicate with us, or cats, or,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, that's true. You hook that up, and then like a computer,
A computerized voice.
computerized voice could come out. That would be pretty crazy.
That would be crazy. 'Cause
I mean, you've seen the dogs now that have those sort of like mats with the buttons, where they
those are funny.
Sometimes it's pretty crazy how
It
like
is
you know.
crazy.
But-
So parrots are all like worried because, you know, they're like, hey, we're the only ones that can really talk. They're stealing our thunder. But you stop and think about that. You know, nobody, speaking of your dreams, nobody would ever want to know what a cat thinks.
Oh,
You know,
no.
that would be
No.
Stephen King-ish, you know.
Yeah.
So,
I swear cats live half the time in hell, but
yeah, they're just like, I'll show you spit up a hairball.
yeah.
So, but yeah, that is scary, you know.
Yeah.
So, woo.
Yeah, AI, get ready, y'all.
In one way, I want to see these things, and the other, I want to see yours. I don't want anybody to see mine.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it goes to that thing of I want to see yours, but I don't want to see mine. So, and so that goes back to the dream of, remember when you go start school and your first day and you arrive and stand in front of the class and you're just in your underwear and everybody's laughing at you. And why did that even become a thing?
I don't know, but so many people have that dream.
I know.
Yeah.
It's like a thing. So, well, school is coming up soon, and hopefully, you know, all that stuff means a reprieve from the heat.
Yeah.
So,
And remember to wear pants to school.
remember to wear pants and don't fulfill your dreams.
Yeah.
So,
Don't fulfill your dreams. That's the tagline of our podcast. Where's that now? Don't fulfill your dreams.
hey, we've been taking a big chunk of time off in July, and there's been a lot going on up here at the church. You probably saw a big dumpster, and now we need a new light pole.
Yeah.
Because
It's always something.
dump truck took out a light pole in the back.
Yeah.
Which a concrete light pole, that's impressive.
I've seen
That's
cars,
impressive work.
I've seen cars hit that thing, and yeah.
I know for a fact that pole has taken out 3 cars.
Yeah.
2 different cars and a Silverado.
Yeah.
I know for a fact that particular pole had a pretty good body count.
So to see it get taken down, that's pretty
But the cool thing is when we went out there, they told us about, we went out there, the light was still on.
That was laying
impressive.
down, but yeah.
So a lot been going on around the church. A Vacation Bible School happened, and you know, we did the Africa trip. There's been a lot happening, but here we are back to August.
Yeah.
And we're about to kick things up again.
Yeah.
So what do we have coming at us?
Well, we have an amazing update to share with you. Starting Wednesday, August 9th, we are thrilled to introduce our brand new Wednesday night schedule. So it's going to be filled with fellowship, learning, and fun for everyone.
Cool.
Yeah. So 5 o'clock, we're going to have dinner like normal, fellowship dinner in Hope Hall. And then at 6:15, we're going to have all of our activities. So that's going to be Bible studies, children's stuff, youth stuff, choir practice, anything else that happens on a Wednesday
All the
night
Bible studies.
is going to happen at 6:15.
Yeah.
So that's the new schedule. Hopefully we'll, be able to get people home a little earlier to get kids into bed, and we'll have a little more extended time to fellowship, around dinner time.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be really good.
And everything ends on Wednesday night at what time?
7:15.
7:15.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we haven't really been advertising an end time, but everything's going to start at 6:15 because I think I
Youth
raised.
are planning to go a little bit longer.
I think youth are-
7:30 is when we're.
Yeah, I think youth are-
children too.
And I think choir practice is planning to go 7:30 as well. But I think
Yeah.
the Bible studies are just technically an hour. But again, at the discretion of the class, if they want to keep going,
Yeah.
we're not going to stop them. So
Yeah. So yeah, that'll be good.
So that's
a
our-
little change.
yeah, so it'll be good. Kick up the new school year, fresh start on stuff. So
Yeah.
I think it'll be good for us.
And then that second Sunday in August is Promotion Sunday.
Yes, is that the 13th?
I believe it is. Yeah.
Yes, because we have a lot going on that Sunday. Brian Lee's going to kick up his new sermon series. It's called Jesus Shaped People. So be on the lookout for that. That's going to be a good series, I think. I've seen some outlines for it.
So help me. So
Okay.
it's Jesus shaped like the shape of Jesus, or Jesus shapes you?
Yes. It works on multiple layers.
There's 2 different beasts there.
Exactly.
So that could be an interesting adventure.
So Jesus Shaped People. And that's going to start August 13th. Also, August 13th, like you said, is Promotion Sunday.
Or not.
Oh, is it not?
Yes.
Is it the 6th?
It's the 6th. I just looked at it.
See, Glenn's throwing me off.
I was wrong. August 6th
August
is
6th is
promotion
promotion.
Sunday. Yay!
And Daphne's preaching on August 6th.
Okay. All right. Yes. So my fault. I was totally wrong because, again, I use my calendar. I have to look at it.
Okay, so yeah, this coming Sunday, August the 6th,
Yes.
is Promotion Sunday.
Yes, and I know that they're asking some of the adult classes to help us out. For the first time ever, we're going to do like a parade and march the 5th graders towards the youth building, or towards the gym, and the children are going to make a big parade. We want everybody out there clapping, kind of like a senior walk or something.
We're calling it the 5th grade clap out.
Clap out.
Clap out. So everybody's going to stand in the hall and kind of clap as everybody, as all the 5th graders move.
And then we're going to meet them at the stairs in the Hope Hall corridor area, at the stairs. And the children are going to hand them off over to the youth group. And then we're going to bring them all the way to the gym the rest of the way. So
that'll be good.
We're handing them off.
This is going to be good. I'm excited.
It'll be fun.
This.
Yeah, it won't take long. But so Miranda's put some in your Sunday school classes to help you prepare. So that'll be fun.
Okay, and then August 13th, the next Sunday. So, August 6th, Promotion Sunday. August 9th, new Wednesday schedule. August 13th,
Getting in shape with Jesus.
Getting in shape with Jesus. We're also bringing back Coffee with the Pastors on August 13th. So at 10 o'clock a.m., if you are new to Northside or just want to get to have a conversation with the pastors, get to know them a little bit better, let them get to know you a little bit better, Coffee with the Pastors is going to be in the Hope Hall Kitchen serving area at 10 o'clock a.m. during that Sunday school time on August 13th. So if you want to mosey on down that way to the end of the hall, past Hope Hall, down to the kitchen.
Do they have donuts?
I'm not 100% sure. That's a Nancy Gay question. If you want donuts to be there, everybody email Nancy at northsidejackson.com and say, we need donuts at Coffee with the Pastors.
Yes.
I know there's going to be coffee. Beyond that, I don't know what else she's serving.
Donuts.
So,
or what is like coffee cake?
Coffee cake's good.
Yeah. Is that a breakfast thing though?
I mean, I guess it can be.
Brunch.
Depends on if it's the first thing you eat in the day.
Brunchish. So yeah. Yeah, get in shape with Jesus. That'll be there's another way. See, I can add one more way.
You are.
But you got to come hear the sermons or check them out online or something because I'm probably wrong. So
you're probably wrong.
Probably wrong.
We're going to have a very special guest next week on the podcast. Brian Lee is going to be sitting down with us to talk, and we can ask him
about getting in shape with Jesus.
Really get to the heart of the matter.
Yeah. So Brian's been our interim pastor, serving as our interim pastor, and we're so thankful to have his help. But yeah, that'll be fun to sit down and get to know him better.
Yeah.
That'll be cool. And then
next week, we're going to sit down with Millie Hayes, who is coming on full time here at the church. She's been here for a decade now, helping in the Hope Hall service, but she's coming on full time now to help with our music ministry. So we're going to get to sit down with her and get to talk to her, and get to know a little bit more about her, and it'll be good.
Yeah, I think she has a new puppy.
I have met this puppy.
Hear about the puppy?
Yeah.
I have not met the puppy yet. So.
We'll see if she'll bring the puppy. We'll take a picture and put it on Instagram.
That'd be fun. So yeah. So and then Brian and Millie, and then we have some really fun stuff coming up. We're going to talk about some pretty hard hitting deep stuff too.
Yeah, we've had too much of this fluff.
Yeah, too much fluff. But I know a lot of people have gone to see the Sound of Freedom movie.
Yeah, and
so we're going to open up the pages and have a conversation about that. In a couple 3 weeks, and that's a tough topic, but it shares several things at the end, and we're the ones that lead all of that stuff of the trafficking and the slavery and all. United States is number one in all that, which is we've got to change that. We need to do better, and so I think it's important. A lot of churches, I think this movie's helped them go, that needs to change.
Yeah. So. If you haven't seen the movie yet, I would highly encourage you to go see it.
For adults.
Yeah, it's for adults. I mean,
it's tough to watch.
Yeah. But I would encourage you to go see the movie and at least listen to it before we release our episode so you can be informed on the topic as we're talking about it.
Of human trafficking.
Yeah. So
it's a good movie and really does bring a lot to light that we need to be.
And we'll talk more about that in a couple of weeks. So stay tuned.
There we go. So there we go. That's exciting stuff.
Yeah. Well, thanks for podcasting with me.
Well, anytime.
And thanks to all of you out there in the world for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from us, you can follow us on Instagram at Northside Now Podcast. Go to our website, northsidejackson.com, or email us at podcast@northsidejackson.com. We hope to hear from you soon. Once again, this is Patrick.
Caribou.
And that's what's happening at Northside Now.